Now I can hear you. Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. Hello, and thank you for joining me this afternoon. My name is Dr. Audrey Davis, and I work in the professional development department at the college. The session that I'm going to do with you this afternoon is about resilience and how being resilient really prepares you for being successful. I don't intend to talk at you. I hope that we can have some dialogue on these topics and what I'm going to be speaking about. Please feel free to put your comments in the chat. And if you have a comment, unmute yourself and we will make sure that you're able to speak. I think that you can, are they able to put their hand up so that we can recognize them? Well, I'm going to get started and talk a little bit about what we know about resilience. 80% of the workers currently out there really feel stress of their jobs. And 65% of the respondents to a survey that was given at a health facility talked about experiencing health difficulties due to stress. And really the key to handling stress is finding ways to work with it. One of the things that I know for sure is that just balancing school and work is in itself also stressful. So what would you say is the amount of stress that you're feeling on a day-to-day basis as you go through your classes? Feel free to unmute yourself and answer regarding stress. No one is feeling any stress.
It's not limited to students, is it?
No, it's not limited to just students. It's limited to anyone.
Okay, then I'm gonna say that yeah, I feel about 85% stress.
85%. Yeah, okay. Anyone else?
Most of the time I do feel stressed, especially when I have like a deadline towards like schoolwork or maybe a job or just family issues and, just day-to-day activities like, having to worry about waking up early in the morning and taking a shower, going to the work. And after that, I have to hurry up and change again and get ready for school. And then after school, I have to do some school work. I have chores to do, so it's really stressful. A lot of the times I do feel stressed, but I just try to keep going.
Right. And the thing that we want to do is to find a way of dealing with stress. And the whole idea of resilience is, identifying ways when things are really impacting us in a negative manner. How can we and what can we do to make sure that we continue to move forward? So some of the things that we look at is how do we have a firm foundation? And a firm foundation allows us to deal with a lot of the things that come at us and the kinds of things that oftentimes cause stress versus having that kind of flexible foundation where we sort of bounce back and we're flexible and knowing how to come back and continue forward, being able to move forward because we have these methods that we have identified. So some of these things to help us move forward and deal with stress is a strong sense of, or a strong self-esteem. You know, knowing our own worth and our abilities. So one of the things is really taking stock to what it is we have to accomplish. We also know that individuals with integrity have high self-esteem. Why do you think those two go together? The integrity and high self-esteem. Excuse me. Why do you see both of them together?
Because when you look at integrity, integrity isn't what you do when people are looking. Integrity is what you do when people aren't looking. And therefore, people who do the right thing when people are not looking usually have pretty good self-esteem.
Right, and so with that integrity comes the ability to know who we are, who you are as an individual, and to have that strong sense of self. Resilience is that confidence that you have in yourself to make sure that you can handle the obstacles and the uncertainties when they present themselves. So some of this is really built upon knowing what makes you unique. And I'd like for us to talk about what would your best friend say is your most positive attribute? Anyone? What's your most positive attribute?
Loyalty.
Loyalty. Anyone else?
Honesty.
Honesty. Anyone else? One of the things that people have said to me over the years, and you know, with all of the years that I have had, people still say you tell it like it is, but you always do it gently. So for those of you who are thinking about this whole way of becoming resilient, it's about knowing these things that make us unique, that bring people who are close to us, knowing what is the most proudest accomplishment that they remember you for. What positive message did you receive from someone important in your life or your parents? How would you like to be remembered? What do these things, when you look at this list of what makes us unique, what do you find appealing?
The proudest accomplishment.
The proudest accomplishment. So, you know, when you hear that, what it brings to mind those things that we think back upon. And, we find ways of making sure that we are representative of these things that make us who we are. Recognize your inner voice. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this inner voice. The last time that I did a presentation with the STEM group, I talked about mindfulness and how mindfulness, which is a form of meditation, can help us control the inner voice. And recognizing your inner voice, what kind of phrases do you see here? I could have done better. What if? I'll never be able to. What does this bring forth?
Self-reflection.
Self-reflection, but it also is, it's sort of the ain't it awful part of our inner voice. And what I would like to suggest is that if the inner voice is going to come into play, make sure that that inner voice is providing positive thoughts, thoughts to help you feel and know how to take care of self. Not to put the voice on that bring forth doubt, that brings forth, well, I could have done better. Why didn't I leave earlier? Well, you know what? I didn't leave earlier, but I'm going to get there. Being kind to ourselves, recognize your inner voice and make sure that that inner voice is bringing forth the best of you and not highlighting those things that are not complimentary of you. Identifying your support network. Now, notice I purposely put support in here. And it's so important to make sure that the network that you build for yourself is a network that provides the support that you need. How do you do that? How many of you have that network? Anyone? Dr. Snowden?
I do.
Okay.
I have my dad, and I have a few friends that I usually talk to, and they also talk to me when they're going through something, and I just sympathize with them and let them know I'm going through the same thing and we're in this together.
Great. It's good to know that you have someone that has gone through it or is going through it. Julicia. Julissa.
Yes.
Okay, did you have a comment? You can
Oh no,
unmute.
that I would just wanted to raise my hand that I also did have a support.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that one of the things that is so important to identifying a support system is that a good support system is there not only to support you, but to be there for you and not allow you to get into what I call the ain't it awfuls, which is where we're prone to go when things are stressful. You know, the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Why didn't I? And I want you to make sure that your support system is that. And you're also a part of a system that offers support to others. One of the things that I have found over the years that's helpful to me when I get into stressful situations is thinking about what I have to be thankful for, showing gratitude. It's amazing when we stop, we pause, and we look at how and where we were and where we are now, we can find something for which we are grateful. And so using that to make sure that the persons who we have in our circle of support are people who truly are focused on how we can move forward and not just, yeah, it really is awful right now. Taking a proactive approach, we're all, what nurtures us differs from person to person. And so a proactive approach for someone who is energized by being around other people means that we want to make sure that in building our time, in building our days, we give ourselves an opportunity to be with others who can provide supports. Those of us who are inclined and rejuvenated by when being alone, we have to do just the opposite, which is making sure that we give ourselves time to unwind. I tell people that the best thing that they ever developed was the caller ID on the telephone. It allows me to determine, do I really want to talk or do I just need some time to unwind? And recognizing what it is you need and making sure that you build that into your schedule so that you do receive the support and you're rejuvenated as you need to be. Offering to provide help doesn't mean that you have to give up an hour, a whole day. Maybe it's just making some phone calls for a community agency. But when you know that you're able to help someone else, that in and of itself gives us a strong sense of purpose. Identifying those people who are important to us and making sure that we stay in touch. So we're doing these things to counteract the possibility of being stressful and being stressed by all the things that come out and that we have to do. Connect through listening. And listening is about, listening to the other person's concern, paying attention to a friend's body language. How are they presenting themselves? What are some of the concerns that they may have? What about conflict? So working through conflict. What happens when there is conflict, and how do we find ourselves managing stress when there's conflict? And these are just some phrases or sample phrases that can be used to help you get through the conflict. How do people typically manage conflict? How do you handle that when your plate is full? Anyone? Please unmute and respond.
Prayer.
Dr. Snowden, I didn't hear you.
Prayer.
Prayer. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we use our faith. It's so important. What other way do we manage conflict?
Talk about it and hear the other side of, the other person you have conflict with. And if it is with yourself, then you can seek help from a professional.
Yeah, sure. Reaching out with the other person, trying to, when there's open communication, oftentimes you can find common ground. Doesn't mean that it's going to eliminate the conflict, but at least it provides an opportunity for both parties to see the other person's side. And the sample phrases that are here, telling me about your concern. What is it, or how did I offend you? And in some instances, being willing to have those difficult conversations opens a door to identifying where the problems may lie. So setting goals and really achieving them, having a plan. Stress comes when, it feels as if there are all of these things we have to get done. And how am I going to get them all done? When we have a plan, it's much easier to identify and prioritize what needs to get done and when. And so one of the ways of managing our stress, particularly when it comes to the activities that are associated with the goals that we set, setting goals, writing down, breaking them down into smaller, what's on this list, but being realistic. And sometimes that is better done when you have a friend who knows you, who's also saying, is that realistic? And challenging you to see if you're being realistic. I have a very close friend who calls me at the end of every 2 weeks when she makes up her list, because she does it in 2-week periods. And our conversation always gets back to, are you setting yourself up for success, or are you setting yourself up for frustration? Because the more we put on the list and the more that we feel that we have to do, the more we build up stress for ourselves rather than having something that's manageable. So I say to you, setting the goals are important, breaking them down, but also being realistic with what you can achieve over a given amount of time. So the other variable that comes into this and that oftentimes provides stress for us is when we have to change. And these areas that are identified here, which tells us why change is difficult. For some, it means loss. Sometimes we get into that, woe is me, you know, every time someone has to change, it's always me. Blaming or not taking responsibility for what needs to be done. There are reasons why change are difficult, but there are also things that we can manage. These are the 4 stages of change. Now, there's all kinds of models about change, but this one really looks at the primary stages that people go through: the denial, the anger, the bargaining, and finally, the acceptance. When you think about the events that are occurring for you right now, what are the kinds of changes you feel you're going through, or what stage can you identify with?
I can identify with all of
You could identify.
them.
Okay.
Because I've had to do it. I mean, and I mean recently.
Okay. And Dr. Snowden, what would you say the most difficult phase to get through?
Acceptance.
Okay. Well, that's always the goal. I think that for me, going from anger, from denial to anger, it's almost like a seesaw, if you will. Sometimes I want, oh no, this isn't happening, and there's no way they can do A, B, C, and D. And so going back and forth in that stage, really, finally, when I accept and get over the anger and start bargaining, I get a sense of control, that I have an opportunity to make this work for me. And the acceptance, you know, the one thing that I have found over the years, that once we recognize that life is about change, we begin to look at this and to identify what are the best ways for me to deal with the changes that are being placed before me. And as you're going through your learning experiences with all of the things that you have on your plate, it's so important to understand how you respond to change. Because as long as you understand you have the ability to know what it takes to get through. So these are some of the personal responses. 20 to 30% of the people will actively resist change, whereas 20 to 40% of people will passively resist change. So what do you think, what does it look like when people passively resist change?
They ignore the problem.
They ignore the problem. What other kinds of behaviors do you see?
They don't change, they just let things be.
Yes, they keep on doing what they've been doing all the time before. Mhm.
Just doing it silently,
Yes, doing it silently.
which is probably worse.
Well, it's when you don't know, they just sort of don't have a voice at all. So you never know where they are or if they're supportive. The go people, they actively embrace change, and the others who passively accept change. They're there, but you really don't know that they're there. They're not letting you know by waving of the hands. The Go Bunch will let you know that they love the idea of something changing. So these are some of the reasons that people resist change. And I think that, when you know where you fit on the spectrum of change, there's certain kinds of change that really bring up different kinds of reasons. If I've had a bad experience moving, then I don't want to move. That's the last thing I want to do, because I've already had an experience that wasn't so positive. And so I'm going to think that every experience is like that. So if I understand that that's how someone is looking at change, it gives me an opportunity to say, well, no, we can plan it, we can have the dates, we can do whatever those things were that made it difficult or made the experience negative. We can learn from that and attempt to prepare for making sure that the change doesn't lead us there. So overcoming resistance, these recommendation that they have here, making sure that we have someone who is going through this that we trust, finding a change buddy or two. I thought that was real interesting. Not just one, but two. Making sure that you're not with those who don't want to change and who really have no desire to do anything new. Setting goals and anticipating what the future is going to look like. If you really think about it, change is something that we all should be prepared for, because that is what life is about. From going from one stage to another, going from one learning experience to another, having different relationships. So all of those things are about change, and it's also about learning. So these are some of the ways that you can proactively adapt to change. If you're resistant, you can learn about the realities of the situation. What is real? And what am I basing my position upon when I have nothing that really substantiates it? Finding a place where you can express your feelings or an outlet for those feelings, and then moving on. The slow acceptance or resistance to change. Finding a between the past, the present, and the future. It really is about getting to know oneself and what we know about ourselves, using that to help us move through change. And here are the other ways in which we can help others or really move through the change with as little resistance as possible. So the whole idea of mental agility, being spontaneous, being an observer, and finding an explanation that really doesn't allow you to stay stuck in where you are, being excited about what is changing and what the future may have to hold for you. You know, I was talking about the thoughts and looking at the role that the mind plays, changing our self-talk. Sometimes we are our own worst critic. So making sure that we are taking care of ourselves. You know, there are two sides. There is that part of our mind that's always thinking. It's always active. And then there's that part of the mind that can observe. And so sometimes allowing the talk to flow and just taking some deep breaths and focusing on the breath and not staying with the stories that we can create, particularly when we're under times of stress. The ways in which we can overcome some of the obstacles that we see. Reasoning, staying focused on the present, not allowing the stories to interfere with what you are doing in the present moment. Taking baby steps and drawing on your strengths. I think sometimes when we're under stress, we really forget the strengths that we have and the changes that we have already gone through. And so looking at what is that foundation that allowed us to get to where we are today. So making decisions under pressure, this is what happens. These are some of the variables that come into play when we feel pressure regarding making a decision, too much or too little information, not knowing whether it's reversible, our experience, or fear of failure. Those are all things that bring forth that feeling of, am I doing the right thing? Some of the ways that you can take care of yourself, recognizing that we're all going to have a bad day. It's not that we're looking for it, but they do present themselves. Asking for help. It's amazing how we all benefit when we're able to offer help and also simply asking for help. I think sometimes people don't realize asking someone for help can be as much of a benefit to the other person as it will be to you. So some of the additional ways that you can get through your own tough moments are looking for the good in the situation. Sometimes what appears to be the worst situation provides us with an opportunity, if we look for it, to find good. Helping someone else, really looking at whatever the crisis might have been as, okay, that's occurred, I'm moving forward. Don't allow yourself to get stuck because it's been so difficult. Now, starting your day over can be a little challenging. I know that, you're starting from wherever you are, but sometimes I find finding a place or thinking of that which makes me smile, or what I have to be thankful for, and making sure that I stay away from those people who are always able to find the ain't it awful. So this is just a way of looking at what are those kinds of things that drain your energy versus what gives you energy. And doing this for yourself, making sure that you know why this is happening. So when, as a student, you want to know, when is it and how is it that I am able to be really productive, and making sure that you're looking at, and you know what part of the day you have more energy versus the time of day where your energy is about gone, and making sure that you place those things that have to be done that require attention during the time when you know you're most productive. So it's planning and knowing oneself. So when you are stressed, you can avoid it, you can alter it, or you can accept it. And you can do it, and I'm going to talk briefly about all of these. When we engage our senses, now the taste can be a little difficult, because when we're stressed, there are some of us, and I am one, where if we're crunching on something, we hope that it takes the stress away. It may take the stress away, but sometimes that adds pounds. Touch, sometimes many of you have seen the dolls, the balls, the stress instruments that's out there to help us relieve some of the tension. Music, allowing that to soothe us. I am one, I love soft music. Knowing what it is that can relax you. The same with smells. I love being outdoors when the weather is warm, when you can smell the flowers, you can experience the change of venue, and looking at that which delights. Sometimes it's a picture of a loved one or sunsets, but keeping those things around so that it can rejuvenate you. So, this just talks about what's the difference between stress and burnout, and how you can repair and rejuvenate yourself when burnout appears, as well as what you need to take care of self. Adequate sleep, sports or hobby, and a vacation can be taken in 2 hours if you give yourself the ability to know that body and mind must rejuvenate in order to become resilient. Resilience leads to success because you know how to bounce back from adversity. You know how to maintain your self-esteem. You have a circle of friends for support, and you provide support to others. And you also know what it takes to accept and embrace change. And when we look at all of these variables that allows us to be resilient, we know that if we're resilient, we're also successful. Comments or questions? I'm going to send these slides to the committee so that if you would like them, you're more than welcome to them. Those of you who are here at the college, you can send me an email if they don't get to you. And